How you doing, everyone? This is Matthias Atva from Dreadnought, your Dreadnought PS4 replay guy. Well, I have a real treat for you from Scroat, who found this on level 13 of Havoc. This is officially a Dreadnought carrier. That's right. Take a look at it right here. This is a Dread Fleet carrier, which means it's Jupiter Arms, because the Dread Fleet, as you may know from the lore, is the Jupiter Arms fleet that tried to shut down the warp beacon network in the asteroid belt that Sinley Bay is located, called the Scum Belt. As you see there, it just launched two sets of interceptors, not one. And you can see that on each broadside, where a Dreadnought would normally have two bays of two groups of two bays, this carrier has three groups of two bays in the front and one in the rear on each side. Scroat's moving in for a closer look. It has that Yorktown Concordia type wing commander carrier grouping, or maybe from Babylon 5, where it has a large bay in front for landing or taking off. And you just saw a brief picture right there of him doing a flyby of the bridge. I think this is really neat, actually. Here we have a good look at the entire carrier from about a 45-degree perspective. I believe this is the cover art for the video. You get a good look at all the fighter launch bays right there, and the bridge is off to the right, which is very common on most carriers, with the exception of World War II Japanese carriers. All carriers, a bit of trivia, all carriers have their bridge control center, their con, on the right side, because typically most pilots are right-handed, and when a human being panics, they tend to pull up on the stick, and when they do so, their elbow moves forward and they shift the stick to the left, which means when a pilot panics, they almost always go up and to the left. So to avoid collisions with the bridge, most carriers have their bridge offset to the right. A bit of trivia there about naval warfare. You see it has an engine block on the rear. It's a very compact but unidirectional engine block, and that's pretty common for Jupiter Arms style ships. It's kind of upside down from the Jupiter Arms destroyers, which have a wedge bulk in front and then the engine block and then a flat sort of gap underneath from the mid to rear of the ship. This one seems to have more superstructure on the bottom of the ship, and it has the engine block in the rear, and it has a flat section behind the bridge. If you look really closely in the video before, you will see that indeed the carrier has anti-missile lasers as its perimeter defense module, and its secondary weapon is definitely Dreadnought style flak that has that really long 1,200 meter range that almost caught Scroat and definitely fired at some of the friendly ships in the area. It also seems like it has fairly powerful shields, and I did not see any other sort of bonus as far as defensive bonus or speed bonus. However, it did launch two groups of fighters, so maybe it is, as I explained in the July update, that its primary and secondary modules would both be fighter modules. Right here is a still shot of the carrier launching four groups, or one group of four interceptors. Perhaps they're fighters, but normally fighters come out in groups of 8. So I suspect this could launch 16 fighters or perhaps 8 bombers, but that typically the interceptors come out of one out of every 2 launch openings, so it's one per bay. Dreadnoughts typically have 2 bays for their primary weapon, 2 groups of broadsides, or 2 nuclear missile launchers on each side, port and starboard, or 2 bays of 2 doors, 2 launching areas apiece for interceptors, fighters, or bombers. And you can clearly see that it's launching what looks to be 4 Jupiter Arms interceptors. Here we get a nice shot of Scroat buzzing by the bridge, and I did get this off of Scroat's site. He volunteered the link to me and to the Dread Chat, and thank you very much, Scroat, for doing that. He found this carrier at the end of Wave 13 in Havoc. Now, I've beaten Wave 10, I think I've gotten to 12, but I've never been to 13 or 14, and if you do get that far in Havoc, maybe you too can fight the carrier. But I'm really excited, and as I brought up to Scroat before, it's amazing how much work that Jaeger put into this game. This game, at its beginning, and still now, was very solid. The lore was there, even though it wasn't put in a formal format. The balance was there, the ship classes, the modules were there, even though I have to say some of the modules I think are kind of filler modules. They're not standing up to the test of time. But obviously in this Havoc mode, Jaeger had initially leaked or sneak previewed a carrier for possible carrier class in Dreadnought, or just to put it in the game. But I think it's rather neat, and that means the model is there and some of the programming for the image and gameplay is there. Somewhere deep in the server of Dreadnought, probably hiding right behind the blue and black screens, there is the coding for a Jupiter Arms carrier. We did have the questionnaire in the July update, and I'm going to touch on that in a second because Yultz made a terrific suggestion that I can't believe I missed. But at the end I did speak about carriers and how perhaps carriers would be a good 6th class if they were done right, and if Strikecraft were reworked a little, and if Dreadnoughts perhaps dropped their Strikecraft modules for better primary Dreadnought modules, maybe a new type of nuke and 2 new kinds of broadsides that may be specialized in status effects. Either way, I thought this was a really great find. Thank you very much, Scroat, and thanks for watching as well. I know people think Scroat is a heartless digital murder machine, but he actually watches a lot of my content, which I appreciate. He comments on my content and Yulsa's content and Sharky's on and off screen, and he's actually very nice once you get to know him, very personable. When he is trolling and when he is blowing you up, you may not appreciate it as much, but outside of the arena, we do appreciate you, Scroat, and this is a really delicious nugget that you found, and it's great that I can post it up here for my viewers and subscribers. So while we're on the topic of Yultz, I can't believe I missed this, but I only had 5 choices for my viewer opinion poll, and this probably should have been number 1, and I think this idea is actually pretty easily implemented and would solve a lot of problems for the game and buy more time for Greybox to put new content and new development into the game, and that is, why not merge the PS4 and PC servers? Now, some people may say, well, the coding is crazy and this would be such an undertaking, but PS4, there were 2 servers and they were merged fairly easily, and that did wonders for our population count. It did wonders for our community because now we're all together in one place and we had to share meta and we got to brawl with the English and the Germans and everyone else in Europe, and it's been a lot of fun and we appreciate it. I've met a lot of players on the PS4 network that I feel I am fairly close to in Dreadnought, and they are from the European nations, and there's a whole bunch of them, and they're a bunch of great players and people. Now, I know the source coding is much different from Steam PC to PS4, but we do have Apex Legends and a couple of other games that actually combine PC and PS4 server, and it doesn't seem to be that big of a deal for them. So if PC is having population problems right now and they're running a totally different game meta, which I really believe they are because everyone is complaining about very different things on PC than they are on PS4. And it seems that the play styles are much different. I've watched I like to watch everyone's replays. I like to watch PC replays as well. I'm not just a poster. I like to watch Dreadnought content very much. And I've watched PC replays, and they seem very heel ball static, almost like watching a World of Warcraft game or watching a Star Trek Online game. Very teamwork, coherency dependent, where PS4 tends to be much more, I would say PC is strategic and PS4 is very tactical. We do work together, but we also raid, flank, sneak. Everyone hates Corvettes, everyone hates Brutuses, but we also have long-range firepower game, killer snipers, a lot of small teams and a lot of solo players that excel on PS4. And it'd be interesting if the two schools of gaming thought collided. And also, we would appreciate more players on PS4, of course, but I think the PC players really need an injection of fresh players to play against and improve their population queues. Ours have been pretty steady for just about 6 to 8 months now in Legendary mode, and I think it took a while for everyone to get to Legendary mode. Sometimes during the week it does start to slow down a little bit, maybe during the day on a Wednesday or something. If I have the day off and I play, there aren't as many players, and sometimes I have to wait 4 to 8 minutes, sometimes 8 to 12 minutes to get a match, but I usually get a match. And then once I start getting a match, the dominoes fall and I get rematches a lot, which is good. This past weekend, everyone on Dread Chat was commenting that we were hitting back-to-back matches, and some of them were extremely intense. This goes out to many players that are subscribers and viewers of mine, and also players that I don't think are subscribers or viewers of mine, but I have to say the general population in Legendary is getting much better. It's very hard to farm in Legendary now. I have to work exceptionally hard to maintain a certain level of quality for my replays, and there are a lot of matches that I'm thinking of making montages to post, because they're not particularly good matches for me, but overall the matches were very, very intense. I had one with Hun where we were broadsiding each other for 4 minutes of the match, and it was a non-stop back and forth Revenge of the Sith brawl. Is a lot of fun. Great Jazzman has come back, and Seba, Great Jazzman, Valorous had a couple of matches with me. CMC Kara, especially Krizali, Jamaican 74s, who's gotten exceptionally better, and a whole bunch of other players have been coming up to the plate and really giving me a hard time. Really excellent matches where you know, beads of sweat on my foreheads, fingers are shaking, throat is dry. Very intense matches, being scared all the time, being startled and surprised, fighting to within an inch of destruction, where I have literally 4 or 5 red pixels of life left. And very intense matches, so it was a fun weekend for me anyway. But I did want to point that out. Maybe I'll put it in a future questionnaire or dedicate an episode to it, but I thought it would be great to explore the joint server now that Apex Legends and other games have done so between PC and PS4. Maybe if we did that, it would buy time to save Dreadnought and make it a better game. Anyway, I just wanted to show you guys this clip since we were on the topic of carriers that Scroat had found. You can watch it on his channel. A lot of his videos are private, but he has a good amount of very exceptional videos. He's a very good player. You should check him out. Also check out Yulse. Yulse has a really great channel and specializes in Corvettes and Brutus. I will have a Yulse replay coming out this week. I was thinking of doing it today, but I thought I would do this instead. I want to post Yulse's replay cast and then have a few days for everyone to watch it like I do with other replay casts before I post another video, to give everyone time to watch it and not miss it, because it's a great replay. I should have a couple more replays from other players as well. Scorn of the Hun is very interested in doing a replay and has a couple really good ideas for the channel as well as other players. But I think that'll end the video here. I've ranted long enough, and you guys, I hope you enjoyed the video, and keep the dream alive for Dreadnought, and maybe one day, Dreadnought carriers. Well, that's it from me for now, and I'll see you soon in Sinley Bay.